For almost every young kid that steps onto a basketball court, their dream is to make it to the big leagues one day and play against the best talent the world has to offer on a nightly basis. Making it to the NBA is one of the most difficult feats to do in all of professional sports, so when you finally hear your name get called on draft night, it's often an emotional celebration of the hard work that you put in. You feel like you're on top of the world and nothing can bring you down, but the thing is that at any given moment, crazy and out of the blue complications can happen, and handling it can be tough. For today's video, we'll be discussing Zhaire Smith, his road to the NBA, and the absolutely wild and unbelievable ride he's been on all year long. Before we get started though, make sure to subscribe to the channel as all support is very much appreciated. Now with that being said, let's begin. Zhaire Smith's journey began in Garland, Texas, where he was born. His father, Billy, played college basketball at Kansas State, so Zair immediately had a connection to the game from a very young age. Zair was like any other fun-loving kid, except for one fateful day that his mother, Andrea, remembers clear as day. All the way back in preschool, another kid rubbed some peanut butter on Zair during lunch, and almost immediately, his eyes swelled shut and he began to break out into hives, which you can imagine would be incredibly frightening for a little 3-year-old kid to go through. They got him to the hospital, and after being treated and tested, they figured out that Zair was allergic to basically every kind of nut, along with sesame seeds and sesame oils. Be sure to keep this in mind because it becomes very important later in the video. He went on to play high school basketball for Lakeview Centennial in his hometown, and for AAU, he actually played on an independent grassroots team that operated away from all of the big shoe company leagues that often get top talent the necessary exposure to draw Division I offers, and this actually did play a big role in his recruiting status. He struggled to field any big offers until that AAU team folded in the summer before his senior year, and from there, he went on to play for the Nike EYBL circuit, which was the best thing that could have possibly happened to him recruiting-wise. Since he was a newcomer to the EYBL scene, he started off as a bench player, but that didn't last very long. Despite having the height of a guard, he was the team's best rebounder, defender, and shot blocker, so they actually played him out of position and started him at center. His athleticism was always his best asset, and his ability to make plays around the rim at both ends of the floor helped him make this adjustment with ease, but at the same time, he wasn't really asked to handle the ball much or shoot from the perimeter, so those parts of his game somewhat lacked development. This experiment actually continued into his senior year of high school, as his team started 4 guards that were all 6 feet tall or under around him. So once again, Smith was playing out of position at center for the betterment of the team, showing how easy he is to coach and how willing he is to do whatever is needed of him. Additionally, his team played full-court press defense all game long, allowing Smith to absolutely dominate the opposition that aren't used to someone as quick and agile as he is protecting the back line. It took until his senior year for major programs to take note of Smith's valuableness as an athlete and defender, even if his offensive game lacked polish and was still a bit raw. His first offer came from Texas Tech, where he would ultimately commit, which he saw as a good fit because of their defensive scheme. Going in as a lowly 3-star recruit as a freshman though, he didn't necessarily expect a big role out of the gate, especially on a team with 6 seniors ahead of him on the depth chart. He thought it would be a pressure-free situation that would give him plenty of time to develop, but little did he know that he would eventually become one of the most vital contributors on one of Texas Tech's best teams ever. He started the year as a bench player, earning minutes because of his defense, but when conference play began, his teammate Zach Smith suffered an injury, and Smith stepped into his spot in the starting lineup. From there, he took off as a contributor and as a prospect, and NBA scouts began to take note. Every game, he seemed to get more and more comfortable out on the floor, and the highlight plays he would rack up throughout this season was just insane, with blocks, high-flying dunks, and locking down opponents on defense, which eventually led to his draft stock going higher and higher. He finished the year as Texas Tech's leading rebounder, shot blocker, and steals leader, which is incredibly impressive for someone at his height at 6'4". If you told Zaire that this would be how his season would go before it started, he would probably call you crazy. He honestly didn't even expect to be an NBA prospect, and in his own words, "I didn't have hoop dreams," he says. "I thought I was going to go 4 years in college, probably make some money overseas, and take care of my family." In reality, though, he was a highly sought-after first-round talent. He declared for the draft, continued to impress at the combine and pre-draft workouts, and that's exactly where he went, as the Philadelphia 76ers traded down to the 16th pick and drafted him there. Now at this point, Zaire is seemingly on top of the world, overachieving all year long and ready to take on the NBA. But unfortunately, this is where things began to get crazy and, in many ways, scary for him. His time with the Sixers started pretty good, doing a decent job showing out in the Summer League by playing good defense and making a few highlight plays. After that, though, his misfortune began when he broke his foot while participating in a development camp for rookies. This was supposed to only hold him out for a few months, but a return was expected without much worry. What happened next, though, is one of the scariest things that has happened to an NBA player in a long time. A month after he broke his foot, he was at the Sixers training facility snacking on some chicken after a workout, which must have been in contact with something nut-related previously, because all of a sudden his lips began to tingle, which is a sign of a minor allergic reaction, but nothing to worry too much about. Because no serious reaction happened after a few minutes, which is when it would usually happen, Zaire thought he was in the clear, so he drove home and hopped in the shower. It was at that moment that things began to go wrong fast, as his entire body began to break out into hives. He tried to administer his EpiPen, but it was expired, and he started to throw up non-stop until he passed out. His family luckily called 911 and got him to the hospital in time, where they found a hole in his esophagus. So after operating on it, they put a bunch of tubes in him to not only prevent fluids from leaking into his lungs, but also to feed him. After all this went down, he was bedridden without the physical ability to move much at all, was in constant pain, couldn't eat or drink anything besides what the doctors administered through the tubes, and rarely ever had the energy to respond to text from his concerned teammates. By the time he was released from the hospital and able to go home, he had lost about 40 pounds, going from 200 pounds all the way down to 160. Now, I don't know about you, but if I were in a situation like this, I would probably get highly discouraged and have no motivation to put myself through any painful physical activities when I'm that weak and recovering from something that almost killed me. But Zhaire Smith is different than most. From the moment Zaire was allowed to by doctors to do anything remotely physical, he did it. While still in the hospital, he would do 300 push-ups per day to try to regain some of the strength he lost. While he was still hooked up to the tubes that the doctor stuck in him, he would go to the Sixers practice facility at 4:30 in the morning every single morning to get shots up with his dad while dressed in nothing but a bathrobe, because normal clothes would make the tubes fall out and leak. When the tubes got removed and he was once again able to eat normal foods, he started downing 7 protein shakes per day, which helped him regain most of the strength that he lost, and after a few short months, he worked himself back to the point where he could rejoin the team and play basketball. This kind of work ethic from such a young player that hadn't even made his NBA debut yet is one of the most inspiring things I've ever heard about in a long time, and it really makes it so easy to root for someone like him. Literally no one expected him to return to the court this season, but Zaire found a way to surprise everyone and make it back before the season ended. After the NBA All-Star break, he joined the Sixers G League team and played a few games with them to get back into the swing of things and experience real basketball action for the first time in months. After he got comfortable there, the moment he had been waiting for finally arrived, and he got called up to the Sixers, where, on March 25th, he made his NBA debut against the Orlando Magic and made his only shot of the game, being a 3. Once the Sixers clinched the 3 seed, the team even started him in the last 2 games of the season, and he scored in double digits both games, played great defense, and looked every bit like the player he was when he got drafted, if not better. He's not a member of the rotation for the Sixers at the moment as they continue on through the playoffs, because to be honest, expecting someone that played only 6 regular season games and went through everything Zaire went through to this point to be ready to contribute for the playoffs isn't very realistic. As soon as next year though, he's on track to be a very good player with a ton of upside. His defense was legitimately very good in the minutes he got, his shot was showing some improvement, and he does all of the little things that coaches love. Plus, he's the 6th youngest player in the entire NBA, so he's got a long career ahead of him. On top of that, his work ethic is absolutely top-notch, as evidenced by how much work he put into getting his body right to make a return far ahead of schedule. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest if he becomes an all-defense caliber player down the line, and he has all the makings of the perfect wing in today's NBA. Overall, this was one of the biggest feel-good stories of the year, and I'm looking forward to seeing Zaire continue to improve. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more NBA content. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.